When a police officer leans toward your window during a traffic stop and asks, "Is there anything in the car I should know about?" Almost every driver feels the same pull to answer because it sounds like a reasonable question between two reasonable people. It sounds like the officer is giving you an opportunity to be upfront before things go further. It sounds like the honest, cooperative response. A quick no, nothing officer, followed by the end of the stop. Here's what almost nobody knows. That question is not a casual check-in. It is one of the most precisely constructed investigative questions used during traffic stops. Every word in it is doing specific work. Should know about is doing the most work of all, because it is open-ended enough to make almost any answer you give relevant to whatever the officer decides to pursue next. And here's the part that catches even careful people off guard. The danger is not in saying yes. The danger is in saying anything at all, because the moment you open your mouth to answer that question, yes, no, nothing important, just my gym bag, you have started a conversation the officer now controls. And conversations officers control during traffic stops have a way of producing exactly what the officer was looking for. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what that question is designed to do. Why every possible answer to it creates a problem, and the one sentence you say the moment it lands. A sentence that closes the technique down completely, protects everything in your vehicle, and cannot be used against you in any proceeding that follows. Hit subscribe right now because this channel exists to give you the knowledge that protects you before you are ever in the moment where you need it. Share this with one person before this video ends, someone who would hear that question and answer it honestly, because honesty seemed like the obvious and safe response. Here is the reality most people are never taught. The question is, there anything in the car I should know about, is what investigators call an open field question. It has no correct answer that closes it down. Every answer opens a new door. If you say no, the officer has established that you have denied the presence of anything noteworthy. If anything is later found, that denial becomes part of the case against you. You told me there was nothing. We found something. That gap between your statement and the discovery is now a credibility problem and potentially evidence of intentional concealment. If you say yes and describe something, you have just produced a voluntary disclosure. Everything you named, everything you described, everything you characterized as harmless goes into the record. The officer evaluates your characterization, not yours. What you called your gym bag, your medication, your tools, becomes whatever the officer decides it might be. In the context of an investigation, you did not know was happening. If you say something like nothing important or nothing you need to worry about, you assumater den when have made a relative judgment about the contents of your vehicle in real time, under stress, without knowing what standard the officer is applying. Nothing important to you may be exactly important to the officer, and qualifying your answer that way signals uncertainty, which signals to a trained investigator that there is more to pursue. There is no version of answering that question that is neutral. Every answer is material. Every answer moves the stop in a direction the officer chooses, not you. The question is designed this way on purpose. Here is what the bad way looks like. Officer finishes checking the license and registration, hands them back, and then leans slightly toward the window and says, "So is there anything in the car I should know about?" Driver says no, nothing, just my stuff. Officer asks, "What kind of stuff?" Driver explains, "Just some clothes, gym equipment, a few tools from work." Officer asks, "What kind of tools?" Driver explains. Officer notes that the driver is providing detailed voluntary information, unprompted, interprets the detail as nervousness, and uses the extended conversation as a basis to ask whether he can take a quick look. The driver started with nothing. They ended with a search request built entirely from the voluntary account they produced in response to one open field question. They answered honestly. That honesty did not protect them. It gave the officer every thread he needed to pull. Here is what the good way looks like. Officer says, "Is there anything in the car I should know about?" Driver looks at the officer calmly and says this, "Officer, I would prefer not to answer questions without an attorney present." That is the complete response. 11 words, calm voice, no elaboration after it. Those 11 words invoke Fifth and Sixth Amendment protections simultaneously. They close the open field the question was designed to create. They stop the information flow without confrontation, without hostility, and without giving the officer a single additional thread. And they put the invocation on the body cam, on the record, clearly and unambiguously, before a single detail about the contents of your vehicle has entered the documented encounter. The officer cannot force you to answer. The contents of your vehicle are not something you are legally required to inventory on demand. The question sounds casual because casual is what gets people talking. The invocation sounds formal because formal is what protects you. Drop a comment right now and tell me, have you ever answered that question during a traffic stop? Tell me what you said. I want to know how many people gave a voluntary account of their vehicle's contents without ever knowing they had a protected right not to. If you are still here, hit the like button right now, because what comes next is where this gets specific. The follow-up moves the officer makes after the invocation, and how you handle each one without giving them what the original question was looking for. Here is what happens after you say those 11 words. The first follow-up is the simplification move. The officer says, I am just asking a simple question. I am not trying to cause problems. You say the same 11 words again. Officer, I would prefer not to answer questions without an attorney present. Then silence. The simplification move is designed to make the invocation feel disproportionate, like you are treating a casual question too seriously. You are not. There is no casual question during a traffic stop. Every question is documented. Every answer is material. The second follow-up is the honesty appeal. The officer says, look, if you have nothing to hide, just tell me and we can wrap this up. You do not engage with the nothing to hide framing. You already know from a previous video on this channel exactly why that frame is a trap. You say the same 11 words, then silence. The third follow-up is the consequence implication. The officer says, this will go a lot easier if you are upfront with me now. You say, Officer, I am not refusing to cooperate. I am invoking my right to counsel before answering questions. Then, silence. Easier is doing a lot of work in that sentence. Easier for whom? Toward what outcome? Defined by whose standard? None of that is answered in the officer's framing. The invocation stands regardless. In every version of the follow-up, the response does not change. 11 words, then silence, then 11 words again if necessary. The goal is not to win an argument at a car window. The goal is to leave without having produced a voluntary inventory of your vehicle that an officer can use as the foundation for everything that happens next. Let me tell you about David. David is 41 years old, lives in Missouri, and was pulled over for a broken taillight. The stop was routine. The officer took his documents, ran the plates, came back clean, handed the documents back, and then asked, so is there anything in the car I should know about? David said no, just some work stuff. The officer asked what kind of work he did. David explained. He was a contractor, had tools and materials in the back. Officer asked what materials. David mentioned several items, including some chemicals he used for a cleaning project. The officer asked whether they were in sealed containers. David said mostly. One had spilled a little during the drive. The officer asked if he could take a quick look at the materials. David said, sure, because the conversation had been friendly, and he genuinely had nothing to worry about. The officer examined the materials, found that one container was not properly sealed under state transportation regulations, and issued a citation for improper transport of a chemical substance. The stop had been about a taillight. It became a chemical transport citation built entirely from a conversation David started voluntarily by answering one open-field question. His attorney reviewed the body cam footage. The officer's question was, there anything in the car I should know about? David answered. Everything after that answer was a direct result of the information David produced. There was no search. There was no seizure. There was a conversation that David participated in fully and freely, and that conversation produced the citation. His attorney told him what I am telling you now. The question sounded like small talk. The answer was evidence. Those two things are never the same thing during a traffic stop. David now knows the 11 words. After this video, so do you. Two legal foundations make everything in this video exact. The Fifth Amendment protects you from being compelled to be a witness against yourself. Describing the contents of your vehicle, what is in it, where it is, what condition it is self-produced information that can be used against you. The protection applies before arrest, at the roadside, in the moment the question is asked. The invocation must be verbal and clear. Illinois versus Cabales from 2005 established that a routine stop can expand into a broader investigation if the officer independently observes additional suspicious circumstances. Your words, your voluntary account of your vehicle's contents, are circumstances. Every detail you provide is a potential justification for expanding the stop. Invoking removes those words from the equation before they exist. Here is the complete recap. Is there anything in the car I should know about is an open-field investigative question. Every possible answer, yes, no, qualifying answers, explanations, creates material the officer can use to expand the stop, justify a search, or support a subsequent charge. There is no neutral answer. The only protected response is the invocation. The moment that question lands, you say, Officer, I would prefer not to answer questions without an attorney present. 11 words. Calm. Clear. Delivered once. Repeated if necessary, followed by silence. The contents of your vehicle are not a required disclosure at a traffic stop. The question sounds casual. The invocation sounds formal. That asymmetry is intentional, and it works in your favor every time. Think about one person in your life right now, someone honest, someone cooperative, someone who would answer that question immediately because not answering seems suspicious. That person is exactly who this question is designed for. Share this video with them today, not later. Right now before you close this tab. The 11 words you just learned take 3 seconds to say, and they close the most common evidence-gathering technique used at American traffic stops before it produces a single piece of usable material. Next week, I am covering what happens when an officer tells you they are going to need you to come to the station to clear something up. The lar, ulan indi denam, uy, ubm, uau, the legal distinction between a voluntary interview and custodial interrogation, and the exact question you ask before you take a single step. Subscribe so you catch it the day it drops. Hit the like button if those 11 words just changed how you will handle the next time that question comes through your window. Drop a comment right now telling me whether you knew before today that every possible answer to that question creates a problem. I read every single comment. I want to see how many people this lands on for the first time. Know your rights. Use them. Stay safe.